All right, welcome. Today we're going to talk about something that's really changing the game for Android development. It's a fundamental shift in how we build apps, so get ready to look at UIs in a whole new way.
So, mind blown. That's a direct quote from Yair Carreno, the author of our source material, describing the first time he really got what declarative UIs were all about. And it's that aha moment that's so important. Because frameworks like Jetpack Compose aren't just new tools, they demand a completely new way of thinking.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this new mindset, we have to start with one single super important concept. It's the one thing that underpins basically every modern declarative UI, and that concept is state. So what is state? Well, think of it this way. It's basically anything in your app that can change. The text you're typing into a search bar, that's state. Whether a checkbox is ticked or not, that's state. The items you've added to your shopping cart, yep, that's all state.
And this right here, this shows a problem that's been around forever. In a typical app, you have this whole tree of views, and each one might be managing its own little piece of state. The parent has its own data, the children have theirs, and it can all become a tangled mess really fast. So that leads to the big question, right? If state is literally everywhere, who's calling the shots? When every single component is its own boss, you get chaos. You get bugs. You get what developers call state inconsistencies. It's kind of like having a dozen clocks in a room and every single one is showing a different time. It's a nightmare. So how do we fix this mess? Well, the modern approach is all about centralizing control. Instead of letting it be a free-for-all, we need a clear, unified system for who's in charge of the state. And that solution has a name: the single source of truth. It's a simple, powerful idea. For any given piece of data, there can be only one true owner. That one simple rule makes your app's data flow predictable and totally rock solid. Now, one way to do this is something called state hoisting. You can see it here. We literally hoist or lift the state up from the child components to their parent. The parent now owns the state, and it just passes that data down to its children to display. The children become stateless. All they do is show what they're told and then send events, like button clicks, back up to the parent to handle. But you know what? We can take this a step further. We can do even better. Instead of loading up a parent view with all that responsibility, we can move it to a dedicated component that lives outside the UI layer entirely, the view model. Now this becomes our ultimate source of truth, managing all the state and all the logic for an entire screen. And when you separate your UI from your state like this, something really elegant happens. It creates a powerful and predictable pattern for managing how data moves through your app. We call it unidirectional data flow. Just look at this diagram. It shows the whole cycle perfectly. State flows down from the view model to your views. Then, when the user does something, that creates an event, which flows up from the views back to the view model. It's this simple, predictable loop. The best way to think about it is like a one-way street for your data, or maybe a two-lane highway, right? Data flows down in one lane, events flow up in the other. That's it. No messy intersections, no U-turns, no traffic jams. This simple rule gets rid of all those tangled data paths that cause so many problems. Okay, let's break that down into 4 super simple steps. It always works like this. 1. The user taps a button, which creates an event. 2. That event shoots straight up to the view model. 3. The view model does its thing, maybe calls an API or does a calculation, and updates the state. 4. The UI sees that new state, and boom, it automatically redraws itself to match. Simple, predictable, and clean. All right, that's enough theory for now. Let's get practical. How does this actually look when you're writing code? Let's check out a quick example from the book's Code Lab to see the real payoff. So imagine we've got a simple form, name and phone number. The old way, you'd probably have a separate state variable for the name, another one for the phone number. But the new, modern way, you bundle them together into a single, neat little object. In this case, a form UI state object. It's just so much cleaner and easier to manage. And the beauty of this is that the code, that form UI state class we just talked about, directly maps to what you see on the screen. It's this super clean straight line from your data to your final UI. And that means less code and way, way fewer bugs. So why go through all this trouble? What's the real payoff here? Well, first, your apps become incredibly predictable. When a bug does happen, you know exactly where the data is coming from. It completely gets rid of those crazy ghost states where your data and your UI are out of sync. And as a bonus, it makes your UI components much more modular and reusable. Look,
When you really embrace this idea of a single source of truth and this one-way data flow, you're not just hopping on the latest trend. You are fundamentally building better apps. You're creating experiences that are cleaner, more robust, and more powerful. So the real question is, what are you going to build next?